All right, everyone. Adam here. We're back, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about Squarespace and if I would use it in my business with our projects, our clients, or is it something that I would say, nah, pass. So we're going to be talking about Squarespace. First thing here, I want to look at a little bit of fine print and kind of jump into what is actually happening behind the scenes. A lot of things that you probably don't care about, but I do. So we're going to talk about them really quickly. And even here, Squarespace, the fine print. All right. And I really actually like and I respect the fact that all of their different policies are very easy to find. Not every company does that. It took me a little time to find them for a few other companies. So I appreciate that. I am very happy that they made this so easy to read through. Now, still takes a little bit of time. As you can see, they're not the longest ever, but they are a little bit of a read. So if you want to spend some time and you're really bored, I would recommend it. If not, I'm going to go over the quick details here. So one of the biggest things I want to point out is the privacy is up to GDPR standards, which is great. And right here is about your own content. So I just want to quickly see right here, you only use content you're allowed to use. That's very, very important, but your user content stays yours. So one of the biggest differences with Squarespace is that they're saying that when you add content, videos, images, other things, it's yours. They're not saying that it's theirs. It's not saying that you're licensing it to them. That your license to them does include parts of these things. As you can see below, it's very clearly laid out what they're allowed to use and what's not. So this is a distinct difference. And let's say if we compare it back to Wix, which is basically you're on their thing, you have license to use it, but a lot of the content, you're kind of giving up your rights in a way of that content to be used, and Wix can use it how they wish, or they own it on their servers. Squarespace is taking a little bit of a different approach here. Also, as you go down, another thing to note for e-commerce, and we just scroll through here to taxes, you are required for taxes. You're responsible for all applicable taxes and will charge taxes in addition to fees and services. So they're going to help you with the technical side of things, but you need to know what you're charging. You can integrate with TaxJar, you can integrate other things, but you're the one that needs to pay those sales taxes and other local taxes if needed. That is not Squarespace doing that for you. That's just something for you to really know. And their payment processor, third-party services or fees and things like that, all of these are clearly laid out in these things. So highly recommend if you're going to be selling online to understand the fees, to understand what's included, what's not, to understand how you can protect yourself against liability. Of course, you can get into these other pieces, but I did want to point out very quickly those two main points, which is your content stays yours and you are responsible for paying taxes, even though Squarespace does help you collect them per se, right? So let's jump back to the home page here and let's talk about Squarespace. And really quickly, I just want to talk about the different features of Squarespace and review it together. And I will say that Squarespace makes it so easy to review it because it's very simple. It's very focused. You have your tour here. You have your websites, domains, online stores, marketing tools, and things like that. The one thing I will say, and I'm not going to jump into this too much, is the integration level of Squarespace has greatly increased and it's doing very well. And I will say that the ability for you to have a schedule meeting with Acuity, it seems like they either made it or purchased Acuity Scheduler. They have the ability to integrate that seamlessly right into your website and marketing tools. So being able to publish right to social media, drive traffic. You can do e-commerce campaigns, right? There's built-in SEO tools, social media linking. Now, it's not as impressive as they make it seem where, like you can integrate and push all these things. You do have the ability to do push notifications, but it's pretty basic for all intents and purposes. You can do this with a lot of different tools, different platforms. SEO as well. Very basic, very standard, but it's there. It's easy to access for each of these different pages or posts or things like that. The other thing is email campaigns. Yes, you can do them. You can make them look good. You can make them integrate. If you're already on Squarespace, it's easier to stay without styling. It's very simple. You can just take your website style right over to your emails. That's awesome. That's very convenient. But there's a lot of services out there that can do this and do this very easily. But it is all very similar. As you can see, you can image, button, edit. All of that is the same as how you would edit your website. So you don't have to learn a new tool. You don't have to integrate a new service. There is a actual purpose to this, and I think it looks good enough that you can actually use it for professional emails, in my opinion. And that's something that is very interesting with this, is that in the day and age we live in, you can't just have a website anymore. You need to have, you have to have a marketing strategy. You have to have a marketing campaign. And email is still a very effective tool for email marketing in general, connecting or engaging with an audience, especially if you have a very big email list that you've been spent time curating and maintaining over the course of years. Email is going to be one of your main lifebloods as an organization to continue to get sales or repeat clients or anything that you or what type of business you're in. So one of the biggest things here is the simplicity of being able to integrate marketing into your website, whether it's pushing social media to do an email campaign. That is a very big win, because I didn't see this very much when I reviewed Wix. There was some talk about it, but it wasn't as intuitive. It wasn't as blatantly obvious. And Squarespace does a great job marketing this and also talking about it really from the get-go. So I just wanted to highlight that I believe the simplicity of the integration makes it so that I believe for certain clients that I would work with, I would use this tool. Because if they don't have a big budget, they don't have a marketing team, and they're doing it all themselves. So a small business, a local business owner, or maybe a growing business that doesn't have its own dedicated marketing team, so it relies on one person, you want to make a simple process or simplify the process as much as possible across the board. So if you're coming to a company, let's say they're a law firm, right? And they only need information, they need scheduling, and they need email list or contact. Squarespace could work very well for them, because they can do all of those things and they can make it look very professional and clean and integrated, and one person can manage it for a reasonable fee, right? It would take some time probably to set up a custom website with them. The design would probably be the biggest expense here. The development of it would be pretty minimal unless there's a custom feature. But if that's a law firm that's looking at it and they wanted to spend a minimal, couple $1,000s on a website, that Squarespace would be an amazing option. And that it would be how I would interpret Squarespace being useful, is for those clients who are looking for a very clear-cut website. You know exactly what they need. They don't need anything fancy. You can come in and they're in a professional realm. They're in something that's they have to simulate like very business, or you're not going to get a crazy creative website out of Squarespace unless you're doing something with images or you're doing something more custom, which is not innate with Squarespace. So the biggest thing I want to encourage here is, if you're doing out of the box websites, you take a Squarespace template, it lines up with the company you're working with. It's an online store that's just starting out and they don't have a big budget, or it's a law firm, or plumbers, professional services, blue collar, but yet very much they need to have a reach. They need to have people find them, right? These type of people who are going to be using that, probably Squarespace is going to be a little bit over the top, or maybe they don't have time to manage that website. This would be a great solution to them. And how I would view this is, my way of looking at it is, I wouldn't try to do anything too custom on Squarespace. I would actually go to templates, and I would actually, if I were to sell, I would find a template the client likes. I would even show them the templates. We would talk about what they like, what they don't like, what type of pages they wanted. And I would basically line up as much as possible their website with a template that's there. And then obviously customize it through changing the font, changing images, making things tweak. Because in all honesty, even if the layout is exactly the same as another website, but you're changing the font, you're changing the colors, changing the images, it's not going to look like the same website. And a lot of websites have a very general layout to begin with. So then no one's going to look at it and be like, wow, this website looks exactly like another website. And that's something you have to be very cognizant of when you're working on building a site, is you can't make websites that look exactly the same. Because when you look at your past work and every single website you've created is exactly the same website, that doesn't look great for your portfolio. That doesn't instill confidence or creativity, right? So you have to be careful on that. But if you're doing due diligence and you're tweaking it per each client's needs and their vibe and their brand, you're going to do okay. So from that perspective, in being able to handle that type of client, that is where I would see Squarespace being very useful, because WordPress, or even getting into, I think Wix is probably, if I were to compare Wix and Squarespace head to head, I think Squarespace is going to win, right? So if you're going to use one of those, use Squarespace. If you're comparing Squarespace to a WordPress or something that's a little more open source, you're going to have a lot more complexities involved. And I think a client's not willing to pay for that complexity because they don't really see the value in it. So therefore, you're going to either be cash strapped building a more complex project with WordPress, and more complexities means more questions, and the client has to have their own this, their own that. Or do you keep it simple and straightforward and get better value out of the client? Meaning they might only have a $3,000 budget, but you can make that budget go a lot longer and a lot less complicated for you as a developer. I do want to say that that's how I'm looking at Squarespace, how I look at website builders or tools to build websites is there an ROI for you? And is it a benefit, is a value add for your client? And is it what they want? Because not every client is going to need a fully customized website, right? So as we go through the different templates, you're definitely going to be able to have a lot of options here. Not everyone's going to fit that category. You might have to do your own design work. You might have to get into that, which would increase the price. But if you're comfortable in that realm, then that would also offer you more opportunity to have a better and more creative websites to offer your clients. So, and then the last thing here is getting into support and what they advertise. And it's really cool that they have a knowledge base. And this is awesome, where they go really basic, but you also can get into setting up everything you would need for a client. So if you don't really know Squarespace really well, like for me, like one of the biggest things when I get started with SEO, it's like, okay, how do I edit SEO content for every platform? Like if I have a client on Wix or I have a client on Squarespace, you can just look at this knowledge base and you know where you have to go in the settings to edit the SEO. So it's really useful from my perspective that they help you. There's videos, there's webinars, there's forums, you can talk to people. There's a whole line of things you can have here. And I believe that is incredibly valuable as a developer, as someone who's selling websites, that you have resources to draw upon, not for just for yourself, but for your clients. Because the biggest piece for websites is not only just delivering the website, it's also delivering education. It's delivering how to use it, how to manage it, how to maintain it. Now, if the client wants to pay you for all that and they don't really care, great. But majority of people out there want to know, they want to understand their website. They want to understand the basics at least, so they're not fully dependent upon you as the developer, as the website designer. So all in all, would I use Squarespace? And the biggest thing here is I see Squarespace as a better version of what Wix is trying to do. Squarespace is not trying to do too much. They're creating actually pretty decent designs. They're creating user-friendly experience. It's very simple. It's kind of like the Apple of the web design, web creator world, right? Page builder, or website builders, as we should say. World is where they're focusing on design and minimalism and making sure that what they have works well. And honestly, from building a website, from using it, I think they follow through with that. Now, there's plenty of limitations, and this is what I will say is, if you're building very simple websites that are informational or introduction e-commerce or very limited type websites that need to be good but don't have large budgets, Squarespace is going to fit that very nicely. You're going to get the website that the client wants. You can also explain the limitations to the client from the get-go, that you can't be changing all of these things, but you can customize the font, the colors, the style, the layout a little bit. And I think it will be enough that the client is going to be very happy. And I personally believe that if I were to have clients approach me from a local level and they didn't have a large budget, I wouldn't even take it to my full team, to be honest with you. This would be something where I could help them out and do it myself and be able to do a very short, streamlined project. Now, if that's a small budget. And if we're talking about a large budget, we would do a lot of the design on the team, and then we would bring it back on. The designers would take a look at a template and build out a design that fits a certain template. So the development process is fairly simplified. So making sure that the design fits within the default kind of Squarespace styling. So you don't have any problems going forward. So overall, I really like Squarespace. I would recommend it for smaller projects that are really more simple, can come out of the box for clients that have lower budgets, but yet you still want to be able to provide them a great website. So thanks everyone for watching this video on how I would use Squarespace and what I would use it for. I look forward to this next video and being able to talk about you and how you could use it for your clients or for yourself. So stay tuned for that, and hope to see you next time.